So let's go back. You're talking about 1991.
Facts.
Chilling. I was at a club. I got an opportunity to audition for a commercial. I think it was for Colt 45. Actually, they were doing a club scene, whatever. So somebody approached me and asked if I would be interested in doing a commercial. Sure, why not? I ain't doing nothing else. They said I had to go see this agent first. If the agent said it was cool, I would get to audition. So I went into the office. Like 2 days later, I met the people. How you doing? Nice to meet you. Yeah. They said, oh, yeah, he's great. Send him in. I booked the commercial.
So you got the commercial.
Right. So now they like me. Would you like to go out for more commercials? Yeah, sure. Why not?
So that was your first, when they first came to you, that was your first time ever, you wasn't even thinking about acting yet.
I had done a couple of commercials before that, but that was as a dancer.
Got you. Okay.
Years before that.
Got you.
But with that agency, I booked like 3 commercials back to back to back.
Colt 45.
Levi's jeans, 501 jeans, and I did something for HBO, like back to back to back. So they were like, "Wow, all right, cool. Would you be interested in auditioning for some legit stuff?" I didn't even know what that was. I said, "Yeah. Well, what do you mean legit?" They said, "TV, films. That be something you'd be interested in?" Yeah, sure. Why not? But I didn't really know what I was getting myself into.
Okay.
I think 3 months before I got that job in Juice, I was doing extra work on New Jack City. So like, I don't know. My whole career has been fortunate occurrence and execution of once that door cracks open, stroll the fuck on through there.
Fact.
Yeah,
So they asked you to do that. You went in the office, and do you remember who you auditioned for?
It was Jackie Brown. She was a casting director, and she actually hired me for a couple of other things since. Then after that, you get to meet the producers, the directors, if it goes well. There was a lot of cats auditioning for that. There was a lot of people that came through.
I heard. For that particular role or for the overall role?
They had us auditioning for every role. Like, they would take you in a room and switch it up. So when it was coming down to the wire, there was 12 of us, in there the last couple of days. There, Reed Bishop, Reed Q.
Do you remember seeing Tupac there? Did he come
over? Yeah, no doubt.
So he was in the same process as you then? He had switched roles, he had to go through the whole...
We were in the room most of the time together because it was the guys that was kind of killing it, So, yeah, we were reading together a lot.
So, you auditioned for the role, right? Then, did they let you know then and there you had it, or you had to go home and they called you?
For this job, I knew that day. I was actually, out of the 4 guys that are cast, I was the first one to find out that I had a part. Check it out. There were 8 of us for the last day. They took us out to dinner, and they wanted to see who was, like, vibing with who. So it was me, Pac, and Jermaine was sitting at the end of the table down there. Omar was down here with, like, the director and the producers and everybody. And we were down there, and I was the only one that was old enough to buy beer. So I was buying pitchers, and we was getting fucked up and having fun. But they was down there watching us, and they were like, see, like that. They already got a little crew down there. But the next day when we came in, they were like, had us read. They were like, that's great. Thank you. You can go home. Left the room. Read again. Cool. Thank you. You can go. And we were all like, oh, shit, they sending people home. It's on. So,
fuck.
We did it again, and the writer, Gerard Brown, said, Khalil, can I speak to you in the hall, please? And I was like, damn, because I thought I was getting sent home. Yeah, everybody, Pac, Jermaine, they looked at me like, damn, G, sorry, So I went out in the hall, and Gerard told me, he said, look, we talked about it, because they were sitting in the corner. They said, look, man, we were thinking it really came down between you and Omar for Q. And we talked about it, and we decided we're probably going to give that role to Omar. And I was like, all right, cool, He said, yeah, but we're going to make you do Raheem. And I was like, oh, cool. He's like, so when you go back in, don't say nothing. So when I came back in, to read. Everybody was like, "Yo, what's up?" I was like, "It's all good. Let's go."
How long was the filming process for that movie?
Not long. I think we shot that in 28 days, something like that.
Shit.
Yeah.
The whole movie?
The whole movie.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's great. But the thing was that I didn't even know, because of the way they casted it and they had us doing all the different parts. By the time we got to do the fucking movie,
half of it was done.
Yeah, right.
It was
We already
done.
knew. We knew everybody's role.
Yeah.
So it was like rehearsal and casting at the same time. They knew whoever got this role, they're gonna be ready. You know.
Paul, he pulled you out. You got Raheem. Who pulled you to the hallway? What's his name?
Gerard Brown. the
Gerard
writer.
Brown.
Yeah.
So he
yeah,
told you
yeah.
about Raheem.
Yeah.
Took you 28 days to shoot that.
Yeah.
Now, I did some research, like I told you earlier.
Yeah.
And I didn't read the article because I wanted to wait till I speak to you. I didn't read it, I won't lie. But I saw that you had a fight with Tupac, or you beat him up on set.
Nah.
So why did they say that?
Nah. We did not put hands on each other. We were broken up before anybody got hit. But it was a cold day. There were blankets passed out to keep us warm. And he didn't want to give up his blanket when it was time to shoot. But meanwhile, everybody else had given up their blanket. When they called action, Pac still got his blanket on. I was like, yo, motherfucker, take your blanket off so we can get this shit. We can get out the cold. Pac, and he said to me, take my name out your mouth, motherfucker. And then we started yapping and whatever, and they broke it up. Nothing happened.
Oh, so it was no fight.
Nah.
So that was a lie that I read. I didn't read
If
it.
they said that Pac and I had a fight, that was a lie. But there was a rumor going around the set. They were like, "Oh, Pac almost whooped Khalil's ass yesterday, bro." I was like,
Oh, he was
fuck
well,
outta
yeah.
here,
Oh,
right?
okay. So how was it working?
That's what happens when you got the light eyes and you light skin.
Hey,
everybody can beat your ass.
Oh, you
Fuck out of here.
Yeah.
She can relate to you.
Yeah.
So how was it working with that nigga though? Like he was.
Pac was beautiful. As a matter of fact, I think the four of us definitely were pulled in by Pac, even in the audition process, because of how hungry he was. He wasn't even supposed to audition. He came there, I think, with G Money from Digital Underground. And he was like, yo, can I read?
For a second, I thought it was somebody first. I'm like, wait a minute, I was.
You know?
I get
And they were like, yeah, cool. You want to audition?
Wow.
Yeah.
But his energy was his energy, his like the way he worked,
Yeah, but he went to a performing arts school. He was an
so
actor
he was ready.
before he was a rapper. He was like more ready than I was. I never went to no acting school or nothing like that. But Pac, was
So
a
besides
studied
that,
performer. He
did
was ready to go.
Besides that, did anybody else disagree on set? Like, was there anything on set that you could remember? Anyone of the Spanish niggas you fucked up?
I pointed the gun at Jermaine at lunch once, and he got all pissy about it. And I told him to go fuck himself. I was like, fuck you, little nigga, shut up. I was like, what?
Which one, Jermaine? The little fat one?
Yeah.
Still.
He was like, don't put that shit in my face. I was like, what, nigga?
It was a real one or fake one?
The real one, the one we use in the movie.
Those are real?
Yeah.
Shit.
Brandon Lee, Bruce Lee's son, got killed on the Crow because it's a real fucking gun.
I heard he got killed, man. But I didn't know how.
They shot it and they didn't. The fucking thing got lodged. It didn't come out. So when they reloaded it, they thought they emptied the gun out. And it's funny because I met the actor who actually pulled the trigger in the movie. I can't remember his name, creepy looking dude. But it fucked him up because he killed him by accident. So they told him the gun was cool, and when he fired a blank, the shell came out that was lodged in the barrel and hit him. Can you imagine that shit? Action. Bah! The motherfucker go down. He's like, starts bleeding and shit. It's fucked up.
He fucked up Bruce Lee's legacy, nigga.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I don't like that shit, man. We got to see that nigga when we...
Accidents. So, you got to be careful on the set.
So it was an accident.
Yeah.
So he didn't want you pointing the gun at him?
No.
Okay. So now, you filmed the movie, 28 days. Y'all filmed it in the city.
Yeah, uptown. Harlem.
Okay, y'all filmed in Harlem. After the movie come out, how everything changed for you?
I had an audition for a couple of films before Juice. So I had started reading scripts. And I read this script and I thought, it's cool. I didn't think there was anything profound about the script. Mm-hmm. And as far as a story goes, if you think about the story of it, I think it was more the camaraderie and the performances and the music and just the sort of realness of this film. Like it felt like we shot it, that we went uptown and shot it. It didn't look too glossy or done up, It looked like uptown.
So you didn't feel like it was going to be as legendary as it was?
Definitely not.
Wow.
Definitely. And I had never worked on a film before, so while we were doing it, everything seemed like weird, Like now,
a lot of people was out there.
Yeah, and it's like, shouldn't we do it again? No, we got it. And you're like, all right, cool,
wow.
And you just
trust. I guess they wanted the raw shit.
Definitely, but we were fucking around and having fun and really there was a good chemistry between the four of us on the set. And it shows in the movie.
It does.
Yeah,
So it does.
I think that's really what made the difference. And I had no idea that it was going to blow up the way it did. But I got to tell you, that's one of my favorite moments as an entertainer was before Juice came out. And I went to the movies with my friends. And we sat down, and I don't remember what movie it was that we went to see, but the trailer for Juice came on, and I wasn't expecting it. And we were all sitting there. We were like, "Oh shit!" Yeah! And it was like you're up there all of a sudden, like it's real, because it takes a while, man. You finish the flick, and then they gotta approve it, and then they gotta edit it, and soundtrack, and all this shit. Months goes by. After a while, it feels like, did that even happen? You start to forget. And then when we sat there in the theater with my people and the fucking trailer came on, it was beautiful.
So what was life like after, though? Like, tell me
Think
what happened.
about it. You're in New York. You see the posters start to go up in the train station and shit. It was a lot. It was nice. Dinah Ross sat right in front of us at the premiere. And I was with my mom. And when the movie started, I remember, elbowing my mom like, that looked like my name up there, Mom. It's the beginning of a new life, and you know it. No matter what, like, you did that, and nobody could take it.
Film school, and I wrote a couple of what actually got me into NYU graduate film was they want to see where your head is creatively, so they asked for something to show your creativity. So I had written a couple of scripts, for short films, and I sent those in, but I had not written anything feature length. But, Juice came out of the idea, okay, I'm graduating, so I'd like to do a film. And it was actually an idea that had been kicking around in my head for a while. It came from several different places. One of them was, one of my dreams has always been to try and do a film adaptation of a book called Man-Child in the Promised Land. It was written by Claude Brown. That when I was growing up in my first years in high school, that was like required reading for any young black man. And it's, a lot of it is Claude Brown's growing up in Harlem in the late 40s and the early 50s into the 60s. So his adventures growing up, recalled my adventures, growing up in the projects in Newark, how I kind of like always related to that. And so that was part of it, wanting to do Man-Child of the Promised Land, but knowing I couldn't get the rights to it, but still interested in, the lives of young black men on a day-by-day level. And then, when I was my first year at Howard, after my first year, I had a summer job working in the post office. Hardest job I've ever had in my life. Ugh. But working in the post office for the summer. And, you had to check in by 6:59 a.m. So I'm always on the bus before the sun comes up, taking the bus to work before the sun comes up. And sometimes I would see these young kids on the bus, these young guys who were probably around 10 or 11 years old, who looked like they had been out all night long, hanging out. And I was like, wondering, what were they doing? What kind of stuff were they getting into? And I thought, there's a thriller idea around that. So that was also the germ of the idea. Plus, Gerard Brown, who co-wrote the script with me, and we were being continuously horrified by how prevalent guns were becoming available to young kids, young guys in the neighborhoods, when it wasn't like that when we were growing up, like that you could get into a beef with somebody and all of a sudden guns could come out and you start shooting at each other. But when we were growing up, you got into a beef with somebody, you took care of it with your fists. And it's like those days were gone forever. But where this was coming from was really horrifying. So those were the things that started it. And I wanted to do a film noir.
Right.
The idea was to do a film noir where the leads were 16 to 17 years old. And so we started working on the script. And some of the characters came out of interviews that I did with my brother-in-law and some of his friends. My brother-in-law at the time, Eddie, was living on 132nd Street. 132nd Street and Riverside Drive. And so he, in that area, he and his boys, I just spent hours with them taping recordings, taping conversations that we had, talking about, their day-to-day lives, what they've been going through, stuff they had seen, things that had happened to them, attitudes in the neighborhoods, things like that. And so from that's where the screenplay came from.
Wow. Were there any particular film noirs that you used as a model, either in structure or look or tone?
I think way in the back of my head, there was a movie I had seen years earlier called The City Across the River. And I remember it being noteworthy because I think it was Tony Curtis's first film. And it was about these young gang members who get into trouble.
Wished I could afford that.
Oh, yeah. Some car.
Not the car, the dame.
I told you the guy was crazy.
We're going to take care of a guy. Benny, can you get your brother's car?
Sure. Oh, boy, action. Wait till they see me. How much?
I better not go. It's kind of late and tomorrow's school.
He's yelling. Frankie's yelling.
You shut up. Listen to me, Frankie. I've been watching you. You think you're too good for the Dukes or something? We don't like guys with water in their blood.
What's the matter, Larry?
They're just like young kids who get into trouble. So I remember that. But other than that, no, it pretty much came from, the stories that we heard and the stuff that Gerard and I put together.
I read that some of the initial money people who wanted to do it wanted to make it a comedy. How on earth could that story have been made into a comedy? Like, what were they thinking?
Well, what was crazy was that we wrote Juice. We shot Juice in 91, but we wrote it in around 81, 82. And when I finally got an agent, I gave it to my agent, and basically he said, nobody wants to see this film. No, you'll never get this made. Ernest, it's a good script. Forget about it. It's too dark. It's just, you're not going to get it made. And so I forgot about it. It basically sat on the shelf for like the next 8-9 years. And, showed it to different people, but they always said, it's too grim, it's too dark. Nobody wants to see this, forget about it. And, my career as a cinematographer was taken off. And so I was cool. Gerard, who wrote the script with me, he was playwright in residence at Joe Papp's Public Theater. And he was a playwright whose plays were being put on there. So, there was no skin off his teeth. So we both forgot about it until Gerard went and got a new agent. He was shopping for a new agent. And the one who he got, who looked like wanted to take him on, said, well, I want to see some work that you've written. I want to see some screenplays. And so he took Juice out and dusted it off and gave it to her. And she said, well, what's up with this? Why? What are you doing with this? And Gerard said, nothing. Nobody, we got no encouragement. We were told by everybody that read the script that nobody wants to see this movie. And so she said, can I try to sell it? And he said, yeah. So he called me up and said, is it okay with you? I said, yeah, sure. But what happened the first time around. So she takes it around, and all of a sudden there's several production companies that want to buy it. And when Gerard and I first wrote it, we wanted to premiere ourselves. We wanted to use it as a way of premiering ourselves as a writer-director team. Mm-hmm. And so it goes out, it was always something I was going to direct. So she took it out, and all of a sudden these companies wanted to do it. And they sent us back lists of who they thought should direct it. And the lists were usually like 2 to 3 pages, and my name was the very last one at the bottom. And so we were like, okay, well, that's the way Hollywood works. And then we started getting notes. Notes. Yeah, like notes that, okay, we love the script, but we think it's a little bit too dark. It might work better as a coming-of-age comedy. Maybe you need to rewrite it and make it funnier and more one-liners and, a real comedy. And we hated what the notes were saying, because it was that old story of a script that starts out as a real promising piece of work, but gets developed into a piece of shit. And so Gerard and I basically looked at each other and we said, forget this, man. We, don't like what they have to say about this. So we basically took the script back. We could have made money on it, but we took the script back. And life goes on. And then I got a phone call one day. A British gentleman on the other end of the line said he'd read the script and he wanted to talk to me about it. And so his name was David Heyman. We met at a place called the Pink Teacup in the Village, which was a soul food restaurant. We met for brunch and we talked, and he asked me, how I saw the film. And I told him that it's got to be a real gritty, real on the streets film, real and raw. I said, there's no actors who we know of who can play these roles. So we got to go for unknowns. And after talking for a couple of hours, he said, I like what you had to say. Do you want me to get funding for it? I said, yeah.
Should have just said that in the first place. Yeah, right.
Yeah. And that's how it started. He got the funding from Island Pictures, which was an offshoot of Island Records, of which his father was a co-owner of with Chris Blackwell. So that's what happened. What had happened was that a friend of David's, a guy named Peter Frankfurt, who had been working at one of the production companies the one that wanted to buy it and gave us the notes. When we took it back, he got a copy of the script and sent it to David. He and David and Neil Moritz were looking for something to debut themselves as producers on, and it turned out to be Juice.
Yeah, and he did okay as a producer in the years to come.
Yeah, he did. he really did. David did
something about a wizard, some little movie about
kid
an English
going to
wizard
school of a wizard
produced. Yeah.
And then a lady astronaut who gets stuck in orbit around the Earth.
Right.
As you may have already guessed, David Heyman was the producer on all of the Harry Potter films, as well as the 2013 Oscar-winning hit Gravity.
He did okay for himself.
He did good.
Yeah. So what kind of changes did you have to make between you write it in 1981 and then it gets dusted off and you start filming? How much did you have to change? Just cultural references and slang, or did you have to rework more than that?
Most of it was dialogue. It was slang. It was that. The role that eventually went to Queen Latifah was originally written for Africa Bambaataa. By that time, he didn't want to have anything to do with our film.
Can I ask why? Do you remember why? Or did he say why?
I don't remember why. I remember a lot of there were quite a few gangster rappers who at that time weren't crazy about the script. I guess they didn't think our film was hard enough. But there were a lot of different reasons. But we wound up going to Latifah, and I met Latifah recently on Jungle Fever. Mm-hmm. So she came in and did it.
Wait, I know you didn't just snatch that
What
from me.
is my take?
I know you
What's
didn't
wrong
just
with
snatch
my
that
mix?
from me. Look, the shit is totally sloppy. Only a fool would open up the way you do. Nobody likes the records that you play. All right? It's just completely whack. Face it. Face it.
Fuck you!
Well, you might have a chance if that shit wasn't so small. No.
So it was, but the changes we had to make over those years was mostly dialogue. And even in the shooting, that changed. Because, by that time, I was 40 years old. So,
No longer finger on the pulse of youth culture, I'd imagine.
I tried to, but you try to stay current. But when you're working and raising a family, it's hard to do that. So,
right.
But the basic action and the basic story stayed the same.
How did you talk to Pac about his character? You've told the audition how he got the role. Like you've told that plenty of times.
And Tretch comes in. He's got his friend with him, and asks his friend, "Okay, just kind of like sit in the back, and whatnot." And Tretch read, and I think he was reading for the role of Q. Did a pretty good job. We said, "Okay, thanks a lot." And going out, we looked at his friend and said, "What about you?" He says, "Me?" He said, "Yeah." I said, well, you want to read? I said, "Yeah, sure. Why not? What's your name?" Tupac. After the audition, I said, "Oh, very nice. Okay, very good. Thank you very much. Do we have a way of getting in contact with you?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "Okay, thanks." He walks out the door. Please close the door. Close the door. We said, phew.
Once he was in, how did you talk about his character, about Bishop, to him?
There's an old saying that 90% of directing is casting. And that is so true. Because casting, when it's done right, can be the most exhausting, nerve-wracking experience in the world, because you're trying to find somebody that knows who that character is, who can go in and become that person, know that person by, to the depths of their heart and become that person. And so Tupac knew Bishop. The reason he got the role was because he understood the pain in the character, the pain deep down inside Bishop that made him question his place in the world, his place in his neighborhood.
Right. He actually says at one point that basically everything he's doing comes out of self-hate. That comes out of his mouth at one point.
I don't give a fuck about you. I don't give a fuck about Steele. And I don't give a fuck about Raheem either. I don't give a fuck about myself. I ain't shit. I ain't never gonna be shit. And you less of a man than me, so as soon as I decide that you ain't gonna be shit.
And that was why he got the role, was because he understood that about the character. Mm-hmm. That's what's great about finding somebody like that. And that's why casting is such an important part, because when you find the right actor, me as a director, all I got to do is basically, sit back and watch and become the first audience for the film, and maybe give suggestions here and there, a nudge here, or a little, push in this direction, or, well, you did this, that's great, so let's try a little bit of this. But the basic spine and all the guts of the performance are already there, because that actor knows who that character is and is becoming that character. And so that's what you're always looking for. You're looking for the verisimilitude that person's going to bring to it. And that's what he did. So when you have that, it's all a question of, blocking and staging. Sometimes you say, okay, let's do it again, but just bring it down a little bit, a little adjustments to the performance. Mm-hmm. And that's all I had to do with all the guys, because I pat myself on the back, but I think I cast the film really well.
Yeah. Did they hang out a lot, the crew, the four of them, during the time of filming? Because they have the banter is so realistic seeming, and it seems like they have this lived in history.
Yeah, they did. That's one of the reasons why those four wound up being the guys, because when I had narrowed the casting down to about 12 people, I did mixing and matching, because I wanted to find the four guys who together would create a fifth person, which was the group, the crew, being, the group mind. And when you look at the extras on the upcoming Blu-ray, there's an interview with the four guys, and you can see how tight they were. You can see how they just like bounced off each other, how they hung out. And they definitely hung out together. When we were putting the Blu-ray together and we found this interview with the four guys, it was amazing, because I had not seen that. I vaguely remembered them doing it, because I do pop into it at one point. Mm-hmm. But it's like gold, man. It's like, seeing the four guys together and how they interact with each other, which is like totally off the cuff, is so much fun. So that's one of the things we're proudest of in the upcoming Blu-ray release, the Blu-ray DVD release. Yeah. And that there's a lot of stuff behind the scenes that nobody's ever seen before.
I can't wait to see it. What was it like directing your mother?
It was pretty cool. It was pretty cool. She really worked on getting that, using the heel of her hand to push the clip into the gun. Tell your mom Jackie says hi.
Are you Lorraine Powell's son?
Yes.
Tell your mother Jackie said hi. Yeah.
My mother had worked for many years at the Newark Public Library, mm-hmm. and she had just retired, and she was, very active woman. She retired. She said, okay, now what am I going to do with my time? And so she was trying to find something to do with her time. And when we were shooting Jungle Fever, she was actually an extra in Jungle Fever. If you look at Jungle Fever, there's a scene between Wesley and Lynette McKee where they're in Bloomingdale's and they're arguing. And there's this little lady in the background, who's shopping, who's standing there listening to them.
These are for you.
I don't want them. I don't want to talk to you.
And that's my mom. And so it was her first time actually spending time on a film set.
Wow. And then she graduated to a speaking role in Juice.
She was there and she said, I like this. She said, maybe I can do this. She said, how can I get this? I said, well, Mom, you gotta get into SAG. You gotta get into the Screen Actors Guild. And so she said, so how do I get into the Screen Actors Guild? I said, well, you gotta have a film role. Well, how am I gonna get a film role? I don't know, Mom. Let me figure it out. Right. So I'm planning Juice, and I said, okay, well, this might be a way of my mom getting a SAG card. so that she could, work in her retirement,
Mm-hmm.
So I figured, okay, maybe my mom can be a school teacher. Maybe, even though we kind of religiously tried to keep parents in our screenplay to the minimum, because just wanted to differentiate between the two worlds, at home and then out in the street. I said, well, maybe I can put a teacher thing in there when Q comes back, and I can have the teacher say something to him in the hallway. And maybe that could be my mom. But sometimes your best ideas come to you when you're taking a shower in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
And the character of Sweets was written for a guy. And I think I dropped the soap in the shower, and I'm reaching for the soap, and bing, it hit me. Why not my mom play Sweets? I said, it's a crazy idea, but yeah, she, my mother grew up in Boston, Massachusetts, Roxbury. She knew Malcolm X when he was in his Zoot Suit phase. She lived right around the corner from Malcolm Little, who became Malcolm X. So she knew, people, she knew gangsters. Later on, I found out that a lot of my mother's associates and friends of the family were numbers runners and gangsters.
Mm.
So my mom knows OGs. So I said, she can be an OG. So I said, okay, let's make Sweets my mom. And so we did. And it was interesting because there was an extra there, and she and the young lady extra became good friends. And so I said, okay, maybe you two ladies are sitting together. So maybe there's a bit of a gay subtext there, but, but she did it. And then I created a monster, because every film I got from then on, it was like, well, what's my role? And she would always say, now, Ernest, remember, you got to give me a part. Now, Marty Scorsese always has his mother and his father in his movies. And I said, yeah, Mom, you're right. So she's in Surviving the Game.
Oh, wow.
When the dog gets hit in the beginning, and the lady that jumps out of the taxi cab,
that's her,
yelling and screaming, yeah.
Look at us, lady, my money. What about my money? Lady, my money. It's $60.
That's my mom. So for a while, every film that I did, I had to have her in it.
Yeah.